Well, folks, how are we all doing today? Here we're going to look at 2019 question 6. Okay, so this is our ellipse and parabola question. Now, before we jump into these, there is a whole load of bits and pieces in these questions that is worth taking a look at. So what have we got here? Okay, well, ABC is a parabola. All right, so this guy here is a parabola. Okay, just in case you think it's an arc. And DEF is a copy of this. Okay. So that's a copy of that parabola, which means we're just going to drop everything down along it. And if I have a look at this AG20, this looks really nice and straightforward. So I'm probably going to start here. We've got a little bit of circly thing going on here. What else do we have? Now, JKM is an ellipse. So this big guy here, okay, is an ellipse. It's fine, and it's fairly obvious in this one, but it's not always quite so obvious. And we have focal points. Okay, so look at these guys. 2 focal points. And I see a major axis, so this is actually not the hardest one to draw. Okay, but the trickier ones are when they give you a point on it. We have some little details here and so on. And BT is a tangent. Okay, so this guy here, see if I have another little colour knocking around. That there is a tangent. And that is the trickier tangent that we're going to do, so we just need to remember our construction for that one, but it comes up often enough. And the rest is little bits of odds and ends. Okay, so now I know all my bits and pieces. Okay, and showing constructions and points of contact. Don't forget that one. Okay, I need a point of contact up here. You can't just throw the ruler against this one. You do actually need the construction. All right, well, I think I'll start at the bottom and build up because it seems to just make a little bit more sense. And this parabola looks fairly nice and easy. Okay, so over we come. And there we go. So we'll just do a construction line across. We can stick this in the middle of the page, left to right, and fairly low on the page to start out. So it's 80 across, so I'm just going to draw myself a little construction line across, 16 to 32. Okay, and that will give me my bottom, so that's 80 there. I'm going to go with 4 divisions on this guy because things are really nicely divisible by 4. So we'll mark these off while we're here. So these are 20 mil divisions across the bottom. Now, we're going to draw the rest of this. So it's 40 up. And I'm going to mark off my 4 divisions as well while I'm here. Okay. And again, I'm just going to complete the little construction box in this guy. There we go, across. And we'll bring this one up here. So that's the middle. And then these are going to be my little vertical construction lines. So in this case, I'll show you now. We know that this is A. This one in the middle, which is crossed by 80 and up by 40, is B. Put the B down there. And that one is going to be C. All right, that's the vertex. So that's the main axis, which means that's why these are all going in the same direction as it, which happens to be horizontal. So we'll pop this out of the way and we'll connect these guys. So all of these little lines go to the vertex. And this is usually the only place people go wrong in parabolas, if they just get the angle of these lines confused, or they kind of assume that one is always vertical, one is always horizontal. It's all about the vertex, the main axis there. Now, we do have a really weird stormy day here, so I'm just going to have to keep an eye on our exposure. Apologies, it may jump up and down a small bit as sun comes out and different things happen. Okay, so we're going to get a point there, then the second one's there, and the third one's there. There's my 3 points for this parabola. I think it's darkened off again. There we are. To do that, you could do all that again on the other side, or you can just do an axial symmetry. It's whichever you prefer. So I'm going to just send these across here. Fairly easy to jump across with an axial symmetry. So we'd often leave the copy of a parabola to the end. It's just the way it comes out in certain drawings, but I'm going to do a copy now because it's no harm to get it done, and it is actually fairly easy. So we'll just sketch our parabola in for these points. Again, slightly long pencil, like that. So I'm holding it down, just like this, all the way around, and just a light line until you can kind of find the curve. You can go back over it heavy. All right, and remember, as it gets to the top, it is horizontal at this point right at the vertex. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do a little trick with our lighting here. I'm going to pop that in the top corner. I'm going to lock our lighting to that. Now it shouldn't jump around quite so much. Okay, so we know E is down by 20 mil. That's fine. Actually, I have a 20 mil marker right there, so I can just take that across. Okay. Here we go, because those are 10 mil divisions. So that's E. And let's just drop each of these guys down. So I have all the points on those lines. I'll have to add in, I'll add in the lines here because it's probably easier to do this. Okay, so these are all just going to move down, and I may as well use my compass because my compass is good for copying the same distance again and again. So that's the distance that B moves to get to E. So this little point has gone down to there, this one to there. That's going to kind of meet the bottom. There we go. There we go. Okay. So now we can see a little bit of a line from our lower parabola. Now, if we'd like to see where this is going to meet, well, that's our 20 mil line. So this is the point that drops 20 to the end. So just to make it a little bit easier, so I'm going to pick up this point here. That's 20 mil down. That's where it hits the ground, so it's there, which is the actual bottom of it. And we'll just bring that across the other side, and again, you can extend the line across, so we'll just take a symmetry across with it there. So that's my bottom parabola. And I think we have a little heavy line joining these two chaps here. Okay. Now, what do we do next? Well, we seem to have this nice little circle at B, so we'll throw that guy in there as a construction line. And just a small tip, when you're doing these little circles, I'd actually measure it off the drawing. Okay, it's going to copy over any small errors you have, and it's usually easier to do anyway. So there's that. I'm going to leave that as construction because it's only heavy there and there. All right. What do we know next? Well, we're going to come up this line, vertically up 30. We find this, and then we can kick into the whole ellipse. So that's fairly nice. Okay, so we'll get that a construction line coming up. We need to measure up 30. And we'll need to come across to see where that meets. So right there, that point is J. And it's no harm to label these guys as you go. It shows an examiner you know what you're doing, but also for yourself, it allows you to track the points. You know, there could be a lot of other bits and pieces going on. So we also know that this angle here comes up like that. Okay, up along by 60. Now this is the point where we're going to see if everything fits, because we do know, all right, that this is going to be 85. So the whole ellipse is 170, so we'll just throw this down here at the moment. Yeah, that will fit my page. Happy days. Now, not an issue in an exam, but it is an issue here. So again, a little tip for doing the center of it. Set the compass to 85. There we go. And from here, mark the center, and then from here we'll draw the major circle. Just means everything lines up nice and neatly. Okay, I also have my center, so I can mark this line. Of course, remember, since I drew it with 60-degree angle here, I can just get the minor axis is somewhere along that line. Now we don't know the minor axis. This is actually the challenge in this drawing, but it's not a very hard challenge because we do know where the focal points are. So again, since it's a symmetrical measurement, there's one there and one there, I'll do it with my compass. Because then any slight errors are copied. Alright, so there's my two focal points, and we'll call them N and P. And we know, of course, that's L up there. Alright, well, this isn't so bad. Now, I think we just need to readjust a bit, don't we? Yeah, we do. So just apologies for a moment. We'll readjust our camera. There we go. Okay, just in that, there's nothing actually happening in that top corner there. All right, so let's see where to go next. Well, I got my focal point. I may as well get my minor axis and actually draw the ellipse. So the key thing to note is, of course, half the major axis from the minor, from the focal point, will give me my minor axis. Okay, so there, that's there. I don't need to do two of them. And I will drop this in here and draw the minor circle. Okay, so at this point we can go ahead and actually draw our ellipse. There's nothing else too weird or wonderful to pop in here. We're going to leave our tangent to the very end because I just don't like those, quite frankly. Now, what we're going to do, this is a little bit, this might seem trickier and actually isn't, which is the good news. So as we look at this, we need to divide up in 30-degree slices. So we can just use our normal techniques, okay, again using the horizontal and vertical as some of the slices, because they always are, and we'll get all of our slices, and then we'll worry about how to actually do the construction. That's where the tricky bit comes in. There we go. Now, as a guide, to avoid this getting too confusing, I would make sure I clearly mark each end of the major axis and each end of the minor axis. And that just allows me to kind of check things as I go and make sure I'm not going to get too confused on them. So where are we going to go for next? Well, we're going from the major circle towards the major axis, which means we're going at this angle, which is the minor axis, which means we're going like this. So we're going to construct these in down that way and up there and this way. We'll get them here as well. Okay. So those are my constructions. Again, I'll do them all on this end as well at the same time. Sure, I'm going to come across like this, so just come down far enough for that. Up. And there we go again. So it's actually not hard once you can see how to do it, but it can be confusing when you don't see that. Now we need to follow the major axis for the next one, which is that orientation. So let's go and come out parallel to the major axis. So that's going to give me a point there and there. You see, this kind of makes sense. There we go. And this way, across here. There's an x2. Okay. Now, and there and there. And there and there. So this might seem a little trickier, but it's not too bad in the end. Okay, so those are all my points. Cross-check that it does kind of make sense. Sometimes if you had a little mistake and you put one up here, you'll see the wobble. You can just go back and check it. So now, I'm going to set a nice long hold on the pencil and just do this in as a construction to try and find it. Remember, this will be going perpendicular to the major axis right at J, so just make sure it comes right around. Okay, it shouldn't be pointy, the same again. Come right across there. All the way around. You should be getting fairly good at your freehand at this stage. I know it's going to be still tricky for some, but we're getting there. And I always find there's certain arcs that are harder to do, certain kind of curves. This is very easy for me, but this is much, as you can see, much trickier. So now that I can kind of see the whole thing, I'll go back and I'll go over it heavy. And just double check, of course, that your ellipse is heavy the whole way around. Sometimes there's portions of it left out, but in this case it's the whole way. Alright, a little wobble there, so we'll just fix that as we're kind of coming around the second time. There we go. Now, alright, there it is. So let's have a look. This one also has a heavy line right down through the center, so we'll just pop this in. Not quite going to get it in one go. Okay, watch just those little details, you don't want to leave them out. Now, where are we going to go next? Okay, so first of all, we'll make sure this all is visible nicely on the screen. I'll actually move it down ever so slightly. So we have, well, that actually is a heavy line there. Let's put this guy in. Okay, like I said, I knew the tangent was coming. We'll deal with that at the very end, but we'll get all these little patterns in here. Now, if we look at these, I have a line coming from P, and it's a little bit trickier to see, but with a bit of routing, you'll see it comes from P and it hits this line 15 mil off the major axis. Right? So, well, actually, we'll drop one down as well. I could do them as axial symmetry, but it's probably easier just to drop another line there, and then we just separate them. So, what we'll do is we're going to measure this 15 off here, because it's just a bit easier to work with, and I have a line here. I don't have a line up there. So there's a 15 up and down. There we go. Of course, we don't need to do the whole line because we just need to know where that point is. And it's from each of the focal points. So pop this in as a construction here. Just make sure you're coming from the focal point. There we go. Okay, so now we have, oops, we did exactly what I told you. Be careful, didn't I? That's what happens when you look at the camera at the same time to see if the lighting is looking good. I'm going to stop now and look at the camera. That's good. Okay, awesome. And we'll try this one again. All right, now we know they're 15 mil spacing. So again, I'm going to just line that up at 30 because I can, 2 15s is 30, that's not so bad. Okay, and then we're going to go to 45 and 60. The other two. And now we're ready to rock and roll. So they're going along like that. And here we are, it's a little bit of stitching on the design here. And then we have the center one as well. And then these two. So just a nice little detail construction, nothing too weird about it. Took me a minute to see this 15 measuring, but if you're patient and have a little root around, you'll see them all. Okay, and now all we're left with is this guy. Now, when we come to this construction here, all right, we're going to make two arcs. We're going to use each of the focal points. For the focal point near the point, okay, my radius is going to be from the point to the focal point, like that, okay? So, and I know all my action is going to be over here, so I'll just draw this arc from here. So this guy, and I'll actually just write this in orange there. That is radius of B to N. B to N. Okay, now for our next one, it's going to be the full major axis. So this will challenge your compass, but you should be able to make it just about. Okay, now in a fantastic twist of fate, mine actually will not extend to that full distance there. Okay, so, and neither will yours, of course, and therefore this was actually a rather cruel and unusual drawing to put out there. So, what we're going to do in this one, alright, is we know that this is going to be 170. Okay, so we're just going to have to line this one up. Now this would be unusual to get, okay, but it's 170 and I can see it's going to impact it there, where it's going to line up on that. Alright, normally we would of course use our compass to set the major axis. Okay, oops, sorry, 170 from the focal point, so it's not there. 170 from here. Okay. You see it's actually going to be all the way down there, and so I'm kind of using this as a compass, looking at the 170, marking it down there, and I'll actually get my point fairly accurately right there. Okay, so that was tricky, and that was actually a terrible, cruel and awful thing to do in an exam, where examiners have lost touch with our normal equipment that we see. But as you can see, there's a nice and easy way around it. So there we go, that's our little point here. Okay, that's where these two intersect. Okay, so I'm just going to extend that a little bit to show you that was the radius of the major axis from P. Okay, what does that give us? That gives us this point here. We'll bring this chappy back to P. And that gives me there T, my point of contact. T connects to B. And you can see there that is tangent to it. It's actually, it has worked out quite nicely. And off we go. So never despair, even if you feel your equipment is a bit off or wrong. There's a small bit of ingenuity, you can work your way around it. And whether that ingenuity is motivated by sitting there in an actual exam, or the fact that I'm 22 minutes into a video and I did not want to have to restart this because I couldn't pick another drawing because I didn't have the right compass. Either way, we shall work our way through it. And there we are. Beautiful drawing. 23 minutes, loads of spare time to kind of work around it. This is quite a nice little practice ellipse drawing.